He's a retired neurosurgeon and a politician. He served as the 17th United States Secretary of Housing and Urban Development from 2017 to 2021. He also ran for President of the United States in the 2016 Republican primaries. He is one of the best neurosurgeons and considered a pioneer in this field. He is married to Candy Rustin and they have 3 children together. Ben Carson has received so many honors from his work as a great neurologist. In Wikipedia, they state he has more than 60 honorary doctorate degrees and numerous nation merit citations and so much, much more.
But years later, when I decided that I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, well, I wanted to go to the place that's best known for neurosurgery, and that would be Johns Hopkins. But as I said before, they only took 2 people a year out of 125 applicants. But when I got an interview and I went there, the fellow who was in charge of the neurosurgery residency program, George B. Uvrahai, was also in charge of cultural affairs at the hospital. And somehow the conversation turned to classical music. And we talked for over an hour about different composers and their styles, conductors, orchestras, orchestral halls. There was no way he wasn't taking me in the program because he had to have somebody to discuss these things with. But what I emphasize to young people all the time is there's no such thing as useless knowledge because you never know what doors it's going to open for you. And the more you know, the more options you have. We had to decide what to do with this circular sinus. And that had always been a source of great concern in all of these kinds of cases that people had tried before. There had been 13 attempts before this.
But Carson has an advantage over previous operations. Through his long hours of practice on the virtual workbench, he's formed in his mind a mental map of the twins' brains, what he calls his map of New York City.
And then I remembered the map. I remembered the map of New York City.
But would this mental map make a groundbreaking separation of the twin sinus possible?
And I remember which way the cleavage planes were going. And I knew that if I could put a retractor here and one here, and I just pulled, that it would separate. And it did.
The separation of the sinus is a triumph, a medical first.
Years ago, President Donald Trump asked me to undertake what has been the experience of a lifetime, the opportunity to serve as Secretary of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Both President Trump and I share a new vision for HUD, one which was built on measuring success not by how many people we added on to government assistance, but how many people we were able to lift up. It doesn't really do a lot of good to sit across the room and castigate each other and call each other names.
Okay, and Debbie still hasn't answered the question.
They shut the government
First of
down.
all,
That's what we used to do in the 3rd grade. It seems like a lot of people never left the 3rd grade. And my apologies to the 3rd graders. I'm talking about people on both sides of the aisle. A lot of people remind me of 3rd graders. They sit there and they call each other names. They don't sit down and discuss things rationally. Human brain are these huge frontal lobes. Let's just remove the cerebellum to the temporal lobes, the hippocampal regions. Tract of Victor Jour goes down to the hippocampal region.
How's your brain leaning?
Well, you know, you have 2 hemispheres. They can battle each other. You have your intellectual side, you have your artistic side. It's best if they work together. So I'm figuring out, are they going to work well together if I pursue the office of presidency? And hopefully they end up looking like this and not like that.
How close are they to this?
I'd say they're about like this. At a younger age, our children, and inspiring them to move in the right direction. I was so encouraged at the airport today when an educational consultant came up to me and he said, I am very familiar with the Carson reading rooms, And some of these schools, the kids' reading scores just explode. And these reading rooms are places that no little kid would pass up. They're decorated in whimsical fashions. One of them that's near Cape Canaveral, it looks like inside of a space capsule. And you look out of one window and you can see the Earth, and another window, you see stars, another window you see E.T., and there's all kinds of creative things around there to stimulate the imagination of the kids. But they get points for the number of books they read, and they can trade them in for prizes. In the beginning, they do it for the prizes, but it doesn't take long before it starts having an impact on their academics. And we put them in all kinds of places, but we especially concentrate on Title I schools, where a lot of the kids come from homes with no books. They go to a school with no library or poorly funded library. And if you can get them at a young age interested in reading, you change the trajectory of their lives, because 70 to 80% of high school dropouts are functionally illiterate. So if you truncate that way downstream, you don't have that problem upstream. Again, this is the way that we as a society have to begin to think. And when we think about communities that are disadvantaged, we have to think broadly about why they're disadvantaged and what can we do to change that dynamic. It's not just a matter of providing them housing security, but it's a matter of the right kind of education, the right kind of transportation, medical care. You need to have clinics that are readily available to people so that they don't find themselves going to the emergency room. You've got a diabetic foot ulcer. You go to the emergency room, it costs 5 times more than it would cost to go to the clinic. And in the emergency room, they patch you up and send you out. In the clinic, they patch you out and say, now let's get your diabetes under control so you're not back here in 3 weeks with another problem. And it's the kind of things that, we really have been paying attention to. And this is not a Democrat issue or Republican issue. This is an American issue. And we have to stop, finding ways to blame somebody for something and just solve the problem. Analyze the data and solve the problem.
Hi guys, it's Jose, your regular Joe. Again, keeping an eye out and my ears open to anything that can help us move forward with freedom to learn and grow and always strive to do better. Dr. Ben Carson is and always will be an inspiration. He has many books out, from Gifted Hands to The Big Picture. He also has movies out after him. Look him up. Check him out. Sir, thank you for your service. Thank you guys for sticking with me to the end. As always, I'll continue to keep an eye out and my ears open to bring you my best. Stay tuned for my number 2 in Black History Month. Stay free.